Good afternoon, football fans. The 2026 NFL schedule has been released, and I'm going to run you through every single game from the Hall of Fame game and the preseason all the way through the regular season. This is Big Al on this Saturday, May 16th, 2026, and we are about to take a look at the entire NFL schedule from the preseason all the way through the regular season. And with that, let's jump right into it. This is courtesy of the Sports Alerts app and ESPN.com. So we're using the Sports Alerts app for the preseason games, which all kicks off on Thursday, August 6th, with the Hall of Fame game from Canton, Ohio. This year it's the Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals, and that game will be on NBC. Now to preseason week 1, which begins on Thursday, August 13th, with 4 games. You have the Detroit Lions at the Cincinnati Bengals at 4 p.m. Eastern. The Green Bay Packers at the Pittsburgh Steelers, also at 4 p.m. Eastern. Then you have the Indianapolis Colts at the New England Patriots at 4:30 Eastern. And the last game on August 13th is the Los Angeles Chargers at the Houston Texans at 5 p.m. Not Eastern. This is local time. But actually the times are Eastern. So Detroit, Cincinnati, and Green Bay, Pittsburgh will start at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 o'clock my time. Indianapolis at New England is at 4:30. And the Los Angeles Chargers at the Houston Texans is at... the Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots is at 7:30 Eastern. And the Chargers and Texans is at 8 p.m. Eastern. Then you have 3 games on Friday, including the Denver Broncos at the Atlanta Falcons at 7 p.m. Eastern. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New York Jets, also at 7 p.m. Eastern. And at the same time, you have the Washington Commanders playing host to the Miami Dolphins. We have a full slew of games on Saturday, including the Carolina Panthers at the Buffalo Bills at 1 p.m. Eastern. And at the same time, the New York Giants host the Minnesota Vikings. Then at 4 p.m. Eastern, it's the Los Angeles Rams at the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Jacksonville Jaguars at the New Orleans Saints. Then at 7 p.m. Eastern, the Philadelphia Eagles face off with the Baltimore Ravens. And at 8 p.m. Eastern, it's the Dallas Cowboys at the Seattle Seahawks. Games that are on the schedule but will be played at times to be determined on August 15th include the Cleveland Browns at the Chicago Bears, the Arizona Cardinals at the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Tennessee Titans at the San Francisco 49ers. What's up, bro? So that's week number 1 of the preseason. Week number 2 gets underway on Thursday, August 20th with a couple games. First at 8 p.m. Eastern, the Las Vegas Raiders visit the Houston Texans, and the San Francisco 49ers battle the LA Chargers. The Raiders-Texans game is at 8 p.m. Eastern, and the Niners-Chargers game is at 10. You have 2 more games on Friday. At 7 p.m. Eastern, it's the New York Jets at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And at 7:30, it's the Carolina Panthers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The rest of the games, or most of them, are on Saturday. 3 games does not have a scheduled time yet. Those are the Green Bay Packers at the Denver Broncos, the Washington Commanders at the Detroit Lions, and the Dallas Cowboys at the Arizona Cardinals. What is scheduled for Saturday, we have 3 games at 1 p.m. Eastern, including the Buffalo Bills at the Cleveland Browns, the Atlanta Falcons at the Indianapolis Colts, and the Baltimore Ravens at the Minnesota Vikings. Then at 4 p.m. Eastern, it's the New Orleans Saints at the Los Angeles Rams, and the New York Giants at the Miami Dolphins. Then at 7 p.m. Eastern, it's the Chicago Bears visiting the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Philadelphia Eagles at the New England Patriots. A half hour later at 7:30 Eastern, the Kansas City Chiefs face off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then the last game of preseason week 2 is Sunday, August 23rd at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's the Seattle Seahawks battle the Tennessee Titans. And moving on to preseason week 3, there are a couple of games that are not scheduled, at least time-wise. One game is on Thursday, August 27th, as the San Francisco 49ers visit the Las Vegas Raiders. The remainder of the games are on Saturday, including the New Orleans Saints at the Dallas Cowboys, the Minnesota Vikings at the Denver Broncos, the Arizona Cardinals at the Green Bay Packers, and the Chicago Bears at the Tennessee Titans. Scheduled for Thursday, August 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. At 8 p.m. Eastern, it's the New England Patriots at the Cleveland Browns. And then that night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, the LA Rams face off with the LA Chargers. Then on Friday, August 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern, you'll have 3 games, including the Atlanta Falcons at the Miami Dolphins, the Houston Texans at the Carolina Panthers, and the Washington Commanders at the Baltimore Ravens. That's followed by 2 games at 7:30 Eastern. The New York Giants visiting the New York Jets. Well, I wouldn't say visiting since they share the same stadium. And then you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Jacksonville Jaguars, also at 7:30 Eastern. Then at 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday, August 28th, the Seattle Seahawks face off with the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Cincinnati Bengals visit the Philadelphia Eagles. Both games are at 8 p.m. Eastern. The last preseason game is Saturday, August 29th at 3 p.m. Eastern between the Detroit Lions and the Indianapolis Colts. Vaughn's in the house. What's up, Vaughn? Alright, so that's a look at the preseason. Now we can jump into the regular season, which kicks off on Wednesday, September 9th. That's right. The NFL season kicks off on a Wednesday this year. And kicking things off is the rematch of Super Bowl 60. The New England Patriots at the Seattle Seahawks. And that's at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. And then on Thursday night, September 10th, we have the first of 9 international games on the schedule. Beginning with the San Francisco 49ers at the Los Angeles Rams. And this game is being played in Melbourne, Australia. And that's on Thursday, September 10th at 8:35 Eastern. And it will be streamed nationally on Netflix. Alright, the first Sunday of the season, September 13th, you will have 8 games early and 4 games late. And both networks will have doubleheaders. The games being aired on Fox include the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Cincinnati Bengals, the New Orleans Saints at the Detroit Lions, the Atlanta Falcons at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Chicago Bears at the Carolina Panthers. While the games airing on CBS, those include the New York Jets at the Tennessee Titans, the Baltimore Ravens at the Indianapolis Colts, the Cleveland Browns at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Buffalo Bills at the Houston Texans. And again, both networks will have doubleheaders in week 1. So the late games all start at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. On Fox, you'll have the Miami Dolphins at the Las Vegas Raiders and the Washington Commanders at the Philadelphia Eagles. And then on CBS, you have the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings and the Arizona Cardinals at the Los Angeles Chargers. On Sunday Night Football, you have the Dallas Cowboys at the New York Giants at 8:20 Eastern on NBC. And week 1 wraps up on Monday, September 14th with an AFC West battle as the Denver Broncos visit the Kansas City Chiefs at 8:15 Eastern on ESPN and ABC. So that is week number 1. Moving on to week 2. The Thursday night schedule begins on September 17th as the Detroit Lions visit the Buffalo Bills in the first ever home game at the new Highmark Stadium. And that's Thursday, September 17th at 8:15 on Prime. Moving on to Sunday, September 20th, you will have 8 games in the early window. We'll start with the games being played on Fox, including the Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons, the Minnesota Vikings at the Chicago Bears, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Tennessee Titans, and the Green Bay Packers at the New York Jets. On CBS, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers at the New England Patriots, the Cleveland Browns at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the New Orleans Saints at the Baltimore Ravens, and the Cincinnati Bengals visiting the Houston Texans. Alright, so in week 2, Fox will have the doubleheader. So 2 other regional games will air on CBS at 4:05 p.m. Eastern, including the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Denver Broncos and the Las Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Chargers. Meanwhile, Fox will have 3 games in their national doubleheader, including the Washington Commanders at the Dallas Cowboys, the Seattle Seahawks at the Arizona Cardinals, and the Miami Dolphins at the San Francisco 49ers. All 3 games start at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. On Sunday Night Football, it's the Indianapolis Colts at the Kansas City Chiefs at 8:20 Eastern on NBC. And on Monday Night Football on September 21st, you have the New York Giants visiting the Los Angeles Rams at 8:15 Eastern on ESPN and ABC. Moving on to week number 3. It all begins on Thursday, September 24th on Thursday Night Football. This week it's the Atlanta Falcons at the Green Bay Packers at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime. Then on Sunday, September 27th, you'll have 9 games early and 4 games late. And this week, CBS has the doubleheader. So we'll start with them and their games for week 3. They have the Houston Texans at the Indianapolis Colts, the Kansas City Chiefs at the Miami Dolphins, the Tennessee Titans at the New York Giants, the Cincinnati Bengals at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the New England Patriots at the Jacksonville Jaguars. And that's game 1 of the CBS doubleheader. On Fox, on September 27th at 1 p.m. Eastern, they will have the Los Angeles Chargers at the Buffalo Bills. That's a pretty strong game there. Also, the Carolina Panthers at the Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets at the Detroit Lions, and the Seattle Seahawks at the Washington Commanders. In the 4:05 regional window on Fox, you'll have the Arizona Cardinals at the San Francisco 49ers, and the Minnesota Vikings at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then in Game 2 of the CBS doubleheader, the big one is the Baltimore Ravens at the Dallas Cowboys, and this is being played in Rio de Janeiro. So most of the country will be getting that game. Others will be getting the Las Vegas Raiders at the New Orleans Saints at 4:25 Eastern on CBS. Sunday Night Football has the Los Angeles Rams at the Denver Broncos. These are the two teams that lost in the conference championship games last season. And that's on September 27th at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. And Week 3 wraps up on Monday, September 28th, as the Philadelphia Eagles visit the Chicago Bears at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ABC. Alright, jumping ahead to Week 4. It all starts on Thursday, October 1st, as the Pittsburgh Steelers visit the Cleveland Browns on Thursday Night Football at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime. Then we move to Sunday, October 4th. We have our first international game, or our second, rather, international game of the season. The Indianapolis Colts and the Washington Commanders. This is taking place at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. And that's at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on Sunday, October 4th on NFL Network. Sublans, what's up? Meanwhile, on the early card on October 4th, you'll have a total of 8 games. On CBS, you have the New England Patriots at the Buffalo Bills, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Cincinnati Bengals, the Arizona Cardinals at the New York Giants, and the Tennessee Titans visiting the Baltimore Ravens. Meanwhile, on Fox, it's the New York Jets at the Chicago Bears, the Los Angeles Rams at the Philadelphia Eagles, the Green Bay Packers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Dallas Cowboys at the Houston Texans in the Battle of Texas. In the regional 4:05 p.m. Eastern window on Fox, you'll have the Miami Dolphins at the Minnesota Vikings. Meanwhile, CBS will have the doubleheader in Week 4. Their games include the Kansas City Chiefs at the Las Vegas Raiders, the Denver Broncos at the San Francisco 49ers, and the Los Angeles Chargers at the Seattle Seahawks. All 3 games start at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Ooh. Sorry about that. Alright. On Sunday Night Football this week, you have the Detroit Lions at the Carolina Panthers at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. And then on Monday, October 5th, Monday Night Football has the Atlanta Falcons at the New Orleans Saints. And this is a pretty special one. It's the 20th anniversary of the Saints returning to New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina ravaged the city. And that's on Monday, October 5th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Okay, moving on to Week 5. Thursday Night Football on October 8th will have a pretty good matchup in the NFC as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers visit the Dallas Cowboys at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime. And then on Sunday, October 11th, we have another international game And this is the Philadelphia Eagles and the Jacksonville Jaguars from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, and that's at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on NFL Network. Only 7 games in the early window on October 11th and 4 in the late window. Starting with the early games on CBS. You have the Houston Texans at the Tennessee Titans, the Las Vegas Raiders at the New England Patriots, the Cleveland Browns at the New York Jets, and the Indianapolis Colts at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then on Fox, in part 1 of their doubleheader, they'll have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Miami Dolphins, the Minnesota Vikings at the New Orleans Saints, and the New York Giants at the Washington Commanders. In the regional 4:05 p.m. window on CBS, you have the Denver Broncos at the Los Angeles Chargers. And then in Game 2 of the Fox doubleheader, you'll have the Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers, the Detroit Lions at the Arizona Cardinals, and the San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks, all starting at 4:25 p.m. Eastern on Fox. On Sunday Night Football, it's the Baltimore Ravens at the Atlanta Falcons at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Hi Lucy, how are you? And then the week concludes on October 12th on Monday Night Football as the Buffalo Bills face off with the Los Angeles Rams in a possible Super Bowl 61 preview. And that's on October 12th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ABC. Alright, so that'll wrap up week number 5 of the season. Now let's jump over to week 6. Alright. The week kicks off with Thursday Night Football on October 15th with the Seattle Seahawks at the Denver Broncos at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime. Then on Sunday, October 18th, we have another international game, and this will be the last one played in London for the season. The Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on NFL Network. And this will be played at Wembley Stadium. Back stateside, you'll have 7 games early and 3 games late. On Fox, you have the Chicago Bears at the Atlanta Falcons, the Baltimore Ravens at the Cleveland Browns, the Tennessee Titans at the Indianapolis Colts, and the New Orleans Saints at the New York Giants. While CBS in that 1 p.m. Eastern window has the New York Jets at the New England Patriots, the Carolina Panthers at the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then at 4:05 p.m. Eastern on Fox, it's the Arizona Cardinals at the LA Rams. And then CBS will have the doubleheader in week 6 at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. You'll have the Los Angeles Chargers at the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills at the Las Vegas Raiders. And then Sunday Night Football is going to be epic. You have the Dallas Cowboys at the Green Bay Packers at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. These two teams played in Dallas on Sunday Night Football last season, and that game ended in a tie. We'll see what happens here. Week 6 wraps up on October 19th on Monday Night Football as the Washington Commanders visit the San Francisco 49ers at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ABC. Alright, Vaughn, I'll talk to you later. And what's up there, Star? How are you? So we're a third through the regular season schedule as we jump into week number 7. Okay. It all starts on October 22nd on Thursday Night Football, where you'll have the New England Patriots at the Chicago Bears. Should be a pretty good one. That's at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime. And then on Sunday, October 25th, we have another international game. This time it's the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New Orleans Saints at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on NFL Network. And this game is being played in Paris, technically in Saint-Denis, France. But yeah, that's Paris either way. First ever NFL game in France. Then on the Sunday afternoon window, you'll have 7 games early and 3 games late. Beginning with the games on Fox, you have the San Francisco 49ers at the Atlanta Falcons, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers, and the New York Giants at the Houston Texans. On CBS, you have the Cleveland Browns at the Tennessee Titans, the Indianapolis Colts at the Minnesota Vikings. Now, this will be the Colts' first visit to Minneapolis after blowing an NFL record 33-point lead against the Vikings back in 2022. Also on CBS is the Miami Dolphins at the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. At 4:05 p.m. Eastern on CBS, it's the Denver Broncos at the Arizona Cardinals. And in Game 2 of Fox's doubleheader at 4:25 p.m. Eastern, the Green Bay Packers visit the Detroit Lions, and the LA Rams are in Vegas against the Raiders. On Sunday Night Football, it's the Kansas City Chiefs at the Seattle Seahawks at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC, and this is the return of Kenneth Walker III, the Super Bowl MVP from last season for the Seahawks, now playing for the Chiefs, back in his old stomping grounds. Week 7 wraps up on October 26th, as Monday Night Football has one of the biggest rivalries in the NFL, as the Dallas Cowboys face off with the Philadelphia Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ABC. And I forgot to mention the bye weeks. I'll run through them real quickly. So off in week 5 are the Chiefs and the Panthers. Thank you, Star. I appreciate you. In week 6, the Bengals, Lions, Dolphins, and Vikings are off. And in week 7, you have the Bills, Chargers, Commanders, and Jaguars with the week off. Alright. Now we're headed into week number 8. So this puts you around Thanksgiving. Or not Thanksgiving, but rather Halloween. And it starts off on October 29th on Thursday Night Football. This week it's the Carolina Panthers at the Green Bay Packers on October 29th at 8:15 on Prime. Alright, no international games to be played in week 8. So I'll jump straight to Sunday, November 1st. You will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 games in the early window, and you'll have 3 games late. On CBS, you'll have the Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills. That should be a pretty fire game right there. The Tennessee Titans at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Indianapolis Colts at the Jacksonville Jaguars. On Fox, you have the Arizona Cardinals at the Dallas Cowboys. The Minnesota Vikings at the Detroit Lions. The Las Vegas Raiders at the New York Jets. And the Atlanta Falcons visiting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then at 4:05 p.m. Eastern on Fox, it's the Battle of Los Angeles, as the Chargers visit the Rams. And again, they share the same stadium, but the Rams are the designated home team. And then in Game 2 of CBS's doubleheader at 4:25 p.m. Eastern, the Kansas City Chiefs battle the Denver Broncos, and the New England Patriots visit the Miami Dolphins. On Sunday Night Football, it's the Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Commanders at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. And then on Monday, November 2nd, Monday Night Football has the Chicago Bears at the Seattle Seahawks at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And off this week are the New Orleans Saints, New York Giants, San Francisco 49ers, and Houston Texans. Alright. Next up is week number 9. It all starts on Thursday Night Football with the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Baltimore Ravens, and that's on Thursday, November 5th at 8:15 on Prime. Then on Sunday, November 8th, we're playing yet another international game. This time it's the Cincinnati Bengals at the Atlanta Falcons, and they're playing this in Madrid on November 8th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on NFL Network. And then you'll have 7 games in the early window and 4 games late. First at 1 p.m. Eastern, the Fox games include the Dallas Cowboys at the Indianapolis Colts, the Detroit Lions at the Miami Dolphins, the New York Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Los Angeles Rams visiting the Washington Commanders. CBS has the New York Jets at the Kansas City Chiefs, the Cleveland Browns at the New Orleans Saints, and the Denver Broncos at the Carolina Panthers. Then at 4:05 p.m. Eastern on CBS, they'll have 2 games. Some will see the Houston Texans at the Los Angeles Chargers. Others will have the Las Vegas Raiders at the San Francisco 49ers. And then at 4:25 p.m. Eastern on Fox, it's Game 2 of their doubleheader. Most will see the Green Bay Packers at the New England Patriots, while others get the Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. And then on Sunday Night Football at 8:20 Eastern on NBC, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Chicago Bears. And rounding out week number 9 on Monday, November 9th, it's the Buffalo Bills at the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ABC. Not playing in week 9 are the Tennessee Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jump into week number 10. It begins on Thursday Night Football on November 12th with the Washington Commanders and the New York Giants in an NFC East showdown at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime from MetLife Stadium. Then on Sunday, November 15th, we have another international game, and this one looks to be a banger. It'll be the New England Patriots and the Detroit Lions from FC Bayern Munich Stadium in Munich, Germany. And that's at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on Fox. They have the traditional doubleheader that week. So this will actually be a triple header for Fox on November 15th. Then at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, you'll have 7 games. In Game 2 of the Fox triple header, you have the Houston Texans at the Cleveland Browns, the Minnesota Vikings at the Green Bay Packers, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Tennessee Titans, and the Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints. Meanwhile, CBS will have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Atlanta Falcons, the Miami Dolphins at the Indianapolis Colts, and the Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. Then at 4:05 p.m. Eastern on CBS, you'll have the Seattle Seahawks at the Las Vegas Raiders, or the Los Angeles Rams at the Arizona Cardinals. And in the final game of the Fox tripleheader at 4:25 p.m. Eastern, the whole nation will be watching the San Francisco 49ers at the Dallas Cowboys. We have an AFC North battle on Sunday Night Football as the Pittsburgh Steelers face off with the Cincinnati Bengals at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. And then on Monday, November 16th, Monday Night Football has an AFC tilt with the Los Angeles Chargers at the Baltimore Ravens at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Alright, the Chicago Bears, Denver Broncos, Philadelphia Eagles, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers are all off in Week 10. Jumping now to Week 11. It all starts off on Thursday, November 19th, as the Houston Texans host the Indianapolis Colts on Thursday Night Football at 8:15 p.m. on Prime. On Sunday, November 22nd, you will have 7 games early and 3 games late. On Fox on November 22nd at 1 p.m. Eastern, you have the Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills, the New Orleans Saints at the Chicago Bears, the Tennessee Titans at the Dallas Cowboys, and the Baltimore Ravens at the the Baltimore Ravens at the Carolina Panthers. I did say that right. Meanwhile, on CBS at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions, the Arizona Cardinals at the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Jacksonville Jaguars visiting the New York Giants. At 4:05 p.m. Eastern on Fox, it's the New York Jets at the Los Angeles Chargers. And then in Game 2 of the CBS doubleheader at 4:25 p.m. Eastern, most will get the Battle of the Keystone State as the Pittsburgh Steelers visit the Philadelphia Eagles. Others will get the Las Vegas Raiders at the Denver Broncos in an AFC West matchup. Sunday Night Football is also an international game. It's the Minnesota Vikings and the San Francisco 49ers at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC from Mexico City. And it looks like this is the last of the international games for 2026. Week 11 closes out on November 23rd with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Washington Commanders on Monday Night Football at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And we'll have 6 teams off in Week 11, including the Atlanta Falcons, Cleveland Browns, Green Bay Packers, Los Angeles Rams, New England Patriots, and Seattle Seahawks. All right. Week number 12, this is Thanksgiving week. And we'll have our first ever Thanksgiving Eve game on Wednesday, November 25th, as the Green Bay Packers visit the Los Angeles Rams at 8 p.m. Eastern on Netflix. Then you go straight into the Turkey Day tripleheader. Game 1 has the Chicago Bears at the Detroit Lions at 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Game 2 is the Philadelphia Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox. And the nightcap is a rather big one. The Kansas City Chiefs at the Buffalo Bills at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. And then you'll have a Black Friday game on November 27th. This year it's the Denver Broncos at the Pittsburgh Steelers at 3 p.m. Eastern on Prime. That brings us to Sunday, November 29th. You will have only 6 games in the early window and 3 games late. The games on CBS include the New Orleans Saints at the Cincinnati Bengals, the New York Jets at the Miami Dolphins, and the Baltimore Ravens at the Houston Texans. On Fox, it's the Las Vegas Raiders at the Cleveland Browns, the New York Giants at the Indianapolis Colts. This is a revenge game for Daniel Jones facing his former team. And also on Fox, it's the Atlanta Falcons at the Minnesota Vikings. At 4:05 p.m. Eastern on CBS, the Tennessee Titans visit the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then Game 2 of the Fox doubleheader. Most will see the Seattle Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers. Others will get the Washington Commanders at the Arizona Cardinals, and both games are at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Then on Sunday Night Football, the New England Patriots visit the LA Chargers at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. And then on Monday Night Football on November 30th, it's an NFC South battle. The Carolina Panthers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And all 32 teams will be playing in week 12. Moving on to week 13, we're now into the month of December. Thursday Night Football kicks things off with the Kansas City Chiefs at the Los Angeles Rams. Thursday, December 3rd at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime. That should be a pretty fun game. Then moving on to Sunday, December 6th, you'll have 7 games in the early window and 4 games late. And CBS will have the doubleheader this week. In Game 1 of the CBS doubleheader, you'll see either the Detroit Lions at the Atlanta Falcons, the Cincinnati Bengals at the Cleveland Browns, the Washington Commanders at the Tennessee Titans, or the Los Angeles Chargers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. On Fox at 1 p.m. Eastern, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers at the New Orleans Saints, and the San Francisco 49ers visiting the New York Giants. Fox will have 2 regional games at 4:05 p.m. Eastern, including the Miami Dolphins at the Denver Broncos and the Philadelphia Eagles at the Arizona Cardinals. In Game 2 of the CBS doubleheader, it's the Carolina Panthers at the Minnesota Vikings and the Buffalo Bills at the New England Patriots. The latter game most of the country will be watching. Then on Sunday Night Football, it's the Houston Texans at the Pittsburgh Steelers at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. And on Monday, December 7th on Monday Night Football, it's a big matchup in the NFC as the Dallas Cowboys visit the reigning world champs, the Seattle Seahawks, at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ABC. Not playing in Week 13, you have the Indianapolis Colts, the Las Vegas Raiders, the New York Jets, and the Baltimore Ravens. That brings us to week number 14. Alright, it all kicks off on Thursday Night Football with the Minnesota Vikings at the New England Patriots on December 10th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime. Then on Sunday, December 13th, 8 games in the early window, 4 games in the late window, and the doubleheader this week goes to Fox. So games on CBS include the Atlanta Falcons at the Cleveland Browns, the Chicago Bears at the Miami Dolphins, the Denver Broncos at the New York Jets, the Houston Texans at the Washington Nationals, and the New Orleans Saints at the Carolina Panthers. In Game 1 of the Fox doubleheader, you'll see either the Tennessee Titans at the Detroit Lions, the Indianapolis Colts at the Philadelphia Eagles, or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Baltimore Ravens. Then at 4:05 p.m. Eastern on CBS, it's the Los Angeles Chargers at the Las Vegas Raiders. That's followed by Game 2 of the Fox doubleheader at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Most will see the Kansas City Chiefs at the Cincinnati Bengals. Others will get either the Los Angeles Rams at the San Francisco 49ers or the New York Giants at the Seattle Seahawks. On Sunday Night Football, it's the Buffalo Bills at the Green Bay Packers at 8:20 p.m. on NBC. And then on Monday, December 14th, Monday Night Football has the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Jacksonville Jaguars at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. And this will be the last week where you'll have teams not playing. And this week it's the Arizona Cardinals and the Dallas Cowboys. So from week 15 on, every team plays. And it all starts with week 15 on Thursday Night Football as the San Francisco 49ers visit the Los Angeles Chargers Thursday, December 17th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime. And then you'll have two games on Saturday, December 19th. You've got the Seattle Seahawks at the Philadelphia Eagles at 5 p.m. Eastern on Fox. And the Chicago Bears at the Buffalo Bills at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Then on Sunday, December 20th, you have 8 games early and only 3 games late. And there will be the doubleheader on CBS for December 20th. The games on Fox include the games on Fox at 1 p.m. Eastern include the Miami Dolphins at the Green Bay Packers. Hey, Lori, what's up? Anna, what's up? The 1 p.m. games on Fox include the Miami Dolphins at the Green Bay Packers, the New Orleans Saints at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Atlanta Falcons at the Washington Commanders, and the Cincinnati Bengals at the Carolina Panthers. In Game 1 of the CBS doubleheader, you'll see either the Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans, the Cleveland Browns at the New York Giants, the Baltimore Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans. In the 4:05 p.m. regional window on Fox, you have the New York Jets at the Arizona Cardinals. And then in Game 2 of the CBS doubleheader, both will see the Dallas Cowboys at the Los Angeles Rams, while others get the Denver Broncos at the Las Vegas Raiders at 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. On Sunday Night Football, it's the Detroit Lions at the Minnesota Vikings at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. And on Monday Night Football on December 21st, perhaps the first matchup between Drake May and Patrick Mahomes as the New England Patriots visit the Kansas City Chiefs at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ABC. Alright, now we've come to week number 16. This is basically Christmas week in the NFL. And Thursday Night Football kicks things off on Christmas Eve, December 24th, as the Houston Texans visit the Philadelphia Eagles at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime. And then you'll have a Christmas Day triple header. First, the Green Bay Packers visit the Chicago Bears at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then the Buffalo Bills will face the Denver Broncos at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Both of those games are streaming on Netflix. The third game of the Christmas triple header is the Los Angeles Rams at the Seattle Seahawks at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Then on Sunday, December 27th, it's a bit of an abbreviated schedule. The games that are scheduled so far on December 27th at 1 p.m. Eastern, you'll have the Los Angeles Chargers at the Miami Dolphins and the Arizona Cardinals at the New Orleans Saints, both on Fox. Then you'll have the New England Patriots at the New York Jets and the Cleveland Browns at the Baltimore Ravens on CBS. And this week, CBS has the doubleheader. At 2:05 p.m. Eastern on Fox, it's the Tennessee Titans at the Las Vegas Raiders. And at 2:25 p.m. Eastern, Game 2 of the doubleheader, the San Francisco 49ers at the Kansas City Chiefs. On Sunday Night Football, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Dallas Cowboys at 8:20 Eastern on NBC. And on Monday, December 28th, on Monday Night Football, it's the New York Giants at the Detroit Lions at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Dates and times have not been scheduled for the following 4 games: the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons, the Cincinnati Bengals at the Indianapolis Colts, the Washington Commanders at the Minnesota Vikings, and the Carolina Panthers at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those games have yet to be scheduled for either Saturday or Sunday. And it's a much similar situation for Week 17. The last NFL game of the calendar year 2026 takes place on New Year's Eve, Thursday, December 31st, as the Baltimore Ravens visit the Cincinnati Bengals at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Prime. Now, this is going to be the return of Trey Hendrickson to Cincinnati. Of course, Hendrickson signed with the Ravens during the offseason. And then we'll celebrate the new year and get back to work on Sunday, January 3rd. The games that are scheduled so far for Sunday, January 3rd are the New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons, the Indianapolis Colts and the Cleveland Browns, the New York Giants at the Dallas Cowboys, and those 3 games are on Fox, as is the Seattle Seahawks and the Carolina Panthers. Meanwhile, the remaining scheduled games, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Tennessee Titans, the Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins, and the Minnesota Vikings at the New York Jets are on CBS. At 4:05 p.m. Eastern on CBS, it's the Las Vegas Raiders at the Arizona Cardinals. Then in Game 2 of the Fox doubleheader, scheduled so far, is the Detroit Lions at the Chicago Bears at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Big game on Sunday Night Football this week. It's the Philadelphia Eagles at the San Francisco 49ers. This is the rematch of the NFC wildcard round from last year. And that's on January 3rd at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC. And then on Monday Night Football, they'll wrap up their schedule with the Houston Texans at the Green Bay Packers at 8:15 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Games not scheduled for either Saturday or Sunday at the present time are the following: the Denver Broncos at the New England Patriots, the Kansas City Chiefs at the Los Angeles Chargers, the Los Angeles Rams at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Washington Commanders at the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think 2 of these games will be flexed into Saturday, January 2nd, and the others will be scheduled on Sunday. But we will not know when those games are until we get to that portion of the schedule. And now we have Week 18. All divisional matchups. You'll probably have 2 or 3 games play on Saturday, January 9th. The rest will play on January 10th. And 1 game with huge playoff implications, if there is one, will be flexed into Sunday Night Football that week. So here are the divisional matchups for Week 18. The New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills. The Cleveland Browns at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Los Angeles Chargers at the Denver Broncos. The Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers. The Jacksonville Jaguars at the Indianapolis Colts. The Las Vegas Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Seattle Seahawks at the Los Angeles Rams. The Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. The Miami Dolphins at the New England Patriots. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New Orleans Saints. The Philadelphia Eagles at the New York Giants. The San Francisco 49ers at the Arizona Cardinals. The Dallas Cowboys at the Washington Commanders. The Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. The Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. And the Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans. So, after the regular season, you'll have the playoffs. And it all begins with the wild card round, which will run from Saturday, January 16th through Monday, January 18th. The divisional round will play on Saturday, January 23rd and Sunday, January 24th. The conference championship games will both be held on Sunday, January 31st. And then you'll have the Pro Bowl, which is sometime between February 3rd and 9th. And it all wraps up at SoFi Stadium for Super Bowl 61 on Valentine's Day, Sunday, February 14th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ABC. Alright, flex scheduling usually takes place starting in week 5 and going all the way to week 18. So some games that are scheduled may be played at another time and on another channel. And with that is the 2026 NFL schedule, going all the way from the start of the preseason with the Hall of Fame game and running through the entire 18 weeks of the regular season. I think sometime down the road, I'll look at every team's schedule and pick how many games each team will win. I'll probably do that sometime during the summer, so be on the lookout for that in case I do. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching, and even though it ain't football season, enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.